Hi everybody, I'm Michael Brown from Montgomery College Television, and I will be your moderator today. We are at the Workforce Development and Continuing Education Center at Westfield South in Wheaton, and Dr. Pollard is very excited to be hosting her first town hall of 2015. Now, as always, if you are close by and you're watching online, why don't you come on over and see us? We've got plenty of room here, and we'd love to have you take part in the conversation. My job is to make sure that Dr. Pollard stays focused on all of your questions. We encourage questions, we encourage comments. We'd love it if you wanted to bring up a topic that maybe we haven't discussed before. Now, again, if you're watching online, you can email your questions to townhall@montgomerycollege.edu. We're going to try to get to as many of your questions as we can during the time we have today. You can help me do that by keeping your questions brief, and please make sure you identify yourself before you ask your question. So, without further ado, here's Dr. Pollard.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh, that was so nice. I am delighted to be here at our Wheaton facility where we do, I think, the job of making our mission the most real. I'm delighted to be here working with our colleagues to get this set up. Thanks automatically to MCTV, who always do a phenomenal job, and all the people in communications that make this happen, because a lot of work goes into planning these. So very grateful, and thank you all for hosting me here, and looking forward to a lively conversation. One of the things I thought might be useful, because we are at one of our facilities where oftentimes the work of what is done here in Wheaton is not always known by the rest of the college, I thought we might take an opportunity to do a little advertisement. So if I don't mind, I have a little, I think, 1-minute roll I want to throw and have everybody see, so you can understand why we're here today.
Montgomery College's Westfield South Center in Wheaton is a satellite campus located in the Westfield South office building, next to the Westfield Shopping Town Mall, just 2 blocks from the Wheaton Metro Station. The over 13,500 square foot facility opened in 1999 with the purpose of serving the ever-growing community with 10 general-purpose classrooms, a computer lab, and an instructor resource center. The campus provides several course programs covering adult ESOL and basic skills for college and careers that include GED, citizen preparation, and My Best. Customer service registration and open enrollment programs also include biotechnology, computer technology, food safety, hospitality, and real estate. You can find a complete listing of all the courses provided at Montgomery College's Westfield South Center in Wheaton on MC's website.
So if you didn't know, now you know. I'm delighted to be here. I love the work of what happens at Wheaton and Gaithersburg and all across this county, because one of the things we know for sure about our mission is that our mission is to make sure we provide access to higher education to populations all across this county. In fact, we were just talking, we noted while we were getting ready, we saw a young couple come in, cute young couple, and they were coming in and their ability communicating that they were here to find English classes. And that is what makes real this mission. So thank you all so much, our colleagues here at Wheaton. Thank you all for hosting. Thank you so much for the work you do. And with that, I'm going to get into some questions. But before a question, I want to push a couple of things, and periodically I'll break in here and do some announcements. The first one I want to do is actually a follow-up to our last time when we had the town hall meeting. This is the 3rd one of the year. At the 2nd one, there was a question about the employee engagement survey. I just wanted to let you know that that survey is going out the first week in March, I believe March 3rd. So I want to encourage everybody to participate in that. It'll be available March 3rd, I think, through the 13th. And then, of course, there is a committee that is helping to drive the questions that go in that. They're looking at the analysis and doing a lot of great work to think about how we interpret the results. So just a follow-up from our last time together. With that, Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. We're going to try to start here in the room. Anyone have a question? And again, you need to wait until I get to you with this microphone before you ask your question. Anyone here in the room to start with? All right, well. Oh, here we go.
Oops, my bad.
Excellent.
So we know about the current programs that are here today. Are there plans to expand college offerings here at this location in the future?
That is a great question. I think we're going to have to be looking at expanding a lot of our programs in general at Wheaton and at Gaithersburg and other locations, because there's a profound need for our community. Our community is coming to us by the thousands, asking us to look at all of the courses that we had listed here and desirous of other ones. But maybe, Nancy, I'm going to see you, and I see are there other people in here who know about plans, or Donna, for expansion here at this particular location? I know you're busting at the seams.
We are busting at the seams. No specific plans that we're aware of, but we're always ready to do whatever the community needs us to do, so we'd be happy to.
Very good. Great question. Thank you, Lori.
We have a question right here.
Oh, awesome.
I'm Nancy Newton, Special Programs Director here at Westfield, and I'm also chair of the Employee Services Council for Governance. And in governance the other week, we were talking about changing the closing the achievement gap. And one of our members brought up, have we ever thought about being a live-on-campus college as we move towards, college town and taking over Montgomery County? That might be a way to help close the achievement gap for some of our students, by providing housing, not providing it for free, but providing it, and just thought if we've ever looked at that.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you for your leadership with the Employee Services Council. Very grateful to you for that work you do there, and raising that question is an important one. So I know all the student services people in the room shuddered when the idea of residence halls was brought up. Residence halls are probably some of the most complicated enterprises a part of an academic institution. I was an RA, I ran a dorm for a little while, and it is something that changes your life doing that. I believe, if the correct number is about 12% of community colleges in this country have some type of residence halls. They're typically, though, in more rural areas where you're able to see a service area that's much larger than ours. I think your question is a good one. We don't have any plans for that. One of our challenges right now is that, with the exception of our Germantown campus, all of our other two campuses are landlocked. So the acquisition of land would be very difficult. The costs that would go into that could be very difficult. That being said, it doesn't mean that it precludes us from exploring that in the future. It is an interesting student services perspective to think about how, if you have students on task in the same space, how you create learning communities can be very effective. At the same time, one of the challenges that is, how do we look at it as a revenue model to make sure it's self-sustaining? That's one of the great challenges with any auxiliary services, to make sure that it is actually bringing in the revenue to make it self-sustaining. Doesn't preclude it, but it isn't on the immediate plans, and I'm sure one of the greater ones I'm also much more interested in is thinking about our employees. We have some challenges with people who are, in particular, relocating to this area. If you're coming from places where the cost of living is far less than what it is here, the adjustment can be problematic. So I think that there are some options that we should be exploring as an institution to become the true college town. Great one.
Before we ask the next question, I just want to clarify something.
Yeah.
Apparently the date on the employee engagement survey is Monday, March 2nd.
Oh, what did I say, the third? Monday, March 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, so just wanted to clarify that. Any questions in the room before I go to an online question? Over here.
I'm Chris Peabody. I've been supporting Carl Whitman and Lori for several months in OIT, and I can't tell you how impressed I am with what's happening at Montgomery College.
Place.
But I also know that I've lived here for 39 years in Montgomery County, and I didn't know how many great things you're doing. And I'm wondering, do you have plans to do more marketing about all the great things?
You must have been a plant. No, not really, not really. But this is an interesting thing, because when I arrived here, and many of you will hear this oftentimes, I hear this every place, Montgomery College is the best kept secret of Montgomery County. Well, I'm kind of this opinion, it's not a secret if everybody knows about it. The other part about it, if you don't know about it, that's a real problem. So we are spending some time, Mr. Sears and the advancement team has asked for additional resources in the upcoming year to look at advancing the college through our media outlets. One of the things we actually heard a presentation this morning is looking at our website, going through a process of redesigning that. In addition to that, we also are going to be going through a significant branding initiative, because I do have this crazy idea that we should turn Montgomery County into a college town. And the way we do that is by making sure that every part of what the county advances itself, that the college is tightly coupled with that. The irony is that we're already there. We already do this. You think about workforce development, the college is doing that. When you think about community engagement and community development, the college is already there. When you think about helping to create the next generation of entrepreneurs, the college is doing that. When you think about a gateway of access for populations and new immigrants to this county, the college is doing that. When you think about opportunity and choice for populations who are needing special services, we do that. You think about seniors. So we're across the whole spectrum. And matter of fact, I was just asking them earlier, when are we going to get the catalog for the summer camps for the little kids? I said, because my little guy is all excited about camps this summer. So we do all of that. In addition to that, our facilities are outstanding. So we've got to figure out how we package this whole way to really advance us in ways. But we're doing some neat things. We've recently done some media buys where we are on major news events, sporting events, major stations across the area. You get on a metro, you should see us in some of the, what are those things? Stations, that's a good general way of saying the stations. You can see us on some bulletin boards across the county. So we're doing that. And part of that, really to be quite frank, could not have really started to happen, I think, effectively until we addressed the one college perspective. Because, what colors would we have put up there? Would it have been the colors from this campus? What mascot would we have put there? So I think this is a part of our natural trajectory as we start to really explore some of these issues. Great question. And welcome to the college after 39 years living in the county. Very good.
All right, we have an online question.
Okay.
It's kind of lengthy. They're breaking our rules, but
It's all right.
it's all right. On the Kojo Namdi show last week,
Oh, yeah.
the issue of part-time faculty came up.
Hi,
A
Dr.
caller
Davis.
was concerned about how much less the part-time faculty earn. I was disturbed by one part of your answer. You stated that MC is a national leader in how it treats part-time faculty, but at the same time, the college must be fiscally responsible. This has become a frequent response to the question of why part-timers cannot be fairly paid. I have never heard of other sectors of our workforce being saddled with that burden. Why does balancing the college's operating budget rest solely on the backs of the part-time faculty? This is from Heather Brown, a part-time music faculty member.
Heather, thank you for the question. And I want to unpack it in a couple of ways, and I want to unpack it by the last statement. Every employee group at the college is responsible for the burden of helping us be fiscally sound. Having gone through a couple of three negotiations this past year around salary and compensation, I will tell you that every employee group and also administrators who don't bargain collectively have some burden to ensure the college is fiscally sound. And I would say the fact that we negotiate salaries is one that indicates that there is a relationship between the employer and the employee in ensuring that that occurs. Now, the other part that I would offer to her, though, is the premise of the question that the caller asked was really this idea of how can we as institutions of higher education, do more to help adjunct faculty who are making a living teaching adjunct faculty, teaching as an adjunct faculty member. And I think that to me is at the root of this question. The Latin for radical is the root, and I think we have to get to the root of some of these questions. And I've talked quite a bit about this. Adjunct faculty, as they are in higher education, those of you who've done history courses would know this, they were never intended for someone to have a sustainable living as an adjunct faculty member. It was never intended for that. Higher education brought in adjunct faculty for very specific reasons. One, to ensure that they had flexibility in the schedule to complement the cadre of full-time faculty that were in the institution. Secondly, to complement the relevancy and the currency of disciplines, particularly in our career and technical programs. Those who are practitioners in the field who come in, may be doing this work during the day, teach a class or two in the evening. Those are the folks who then were ideally brought into that. And then those people who are looking for additional work to supplement whatever else they had going on. The intentionality around having adjunct faculty who are making a living teaching only as adjunct faculty was never the design or the intentionality for adjunct faculty. What has happened, though, are two things I think are important. One is there has continued to be an underinvestment in higher education by the public. And as a result of that, we ideally would love to see all of our classes taught by a majority of full-time faculty, because we believe the value of what full-time faculty bring to an organization, both in terms of their willingness to stay current and actively engaged in their discipline, the advising work that they do, curriculum development, service to the institution. All of that was the intention behind that. But because there was this underinvestment and in some cases disinvestment in higher education, we started to grow and become dependent on adjunct faculty as institutions of higher education, particularly that in community colleges. The corollary that I would offer at four-year institutions is that of graduate assistants. And I think that model has somewhat replicated. Graduate assistants, most of them teach, give or take 6 to 9 credit hours depending on where they are. They have other things that they're doing. The intentionality, I think, was the same around that in adjunct faculty. Now, going to her question, though, I would love to see us be able to provide more resources in terms of fiscal salary to all of our employees. I find it amazing when I watch television, I'm looking at what the salaries are that we pay. I'm watching right now, Robert Reich, he did this, the former Secretary of Labor, he has this documentary called Inequality for All. And he's doing, and I just got past the part where he is asking different people what their salaries are. So, you know, you look at someone like an NBA player who's making multi-million-dollar contract to entertain us, right? You look at what we pay nurses. Look at what we pay people who run CEOs of companies. Look at what you pay a college president. Look at what you pay a sanitation worker. All these different salaries. The reality at the end of the day is to figure out what's the equitable way to do that. It would be unfair of me to say that I don't have to ensure that the college is fiscally stable. What I would offer to that is that all employees have a responsibility and an obligation in that relationship. So I certainly hope that as Montgomery College continues to advance and develop our work in this space, we are a national leader. We have been doing exceptional work in this regard and continue to do so. I think the other part that I would offer to this is that as this is a national conversation. It's not a Montgomery College question. It's not a Maryland question. This is a national conversation that requires a national solution. And what that national solution to ensure that there is more resources for compensation of all employees, but specifically that of adjunct faculty, is going to be a significant increase in resources into higher education. And if we could figure out how that can make it happen, I am a #1 advocate for it.
Well, we have a natural follow-up to that question. On the same vein, this was another online question.
Sure.
It did not come in with a name, but I'm going to read it anyway because it does tie right in.
I don't like no nameless questions, but go ahead.
Why is the college investing in a new part-time faculty support center?
Oh, well, yeah, it is. Okay, that is a natural question to that, because the relationship is a very important one. We know at Montgomery College, depending on the discipline, we can have a significant number of sections taught by adjunct faculty. We recognize as an institution that we have an obligation to ensure, as we would for any employee, how they're onboarded, how they're professionally developed and trained when they come to the organization, how they experience the organization, what resources that we can put, because if you keep this in mind, most adjunct faculty, their intent is to do this as a supplement to their income. So what resources do we have as an institution that we can put before them? How do we make them be aware of the realities of what our students are, the multiple generations in the workplace, in the classroom, the technology needs? How can we help them be a part of the community and culture? How do we ensure that departments are taking advantage of adjunct faculty in a way that is both positive for that employee and positive for the department? So that's the purpose behind this Center for Part-Time Faculty. And I think it also says a lot about this institution's commitment to adjunct faculty, going to the previous question. I do not have access to resources that are going to allow me to say that every person is going to have this salary based on what they want. What I think I can do is to make sure that the institution does two things: provide an equitable salary with opportunities for improvement, and at the same time ensure that we provide resources to help all employees be the best employee that they can here at the organization.
Question from the room? Okay, we have another online question. This one from Betty Francis. Okay. I have been with the college since 1975. Wow. Any plans to offer another round of the voluntary employment retirement program?
Was that cause and effect with that question right there? There's not a formal plan for that. Institutions of higher education are constantly looking at these types of issues. Betsy, thank you for that question. We have to figure out, and you're seeing this actually, I think someone in the county recently announced that they were doing this, and I think it's something we'll have to go back and look at. We did a significant VERP, or Voluntary Employee Retirement Program, about 3 years ago, and we saw a mass exodus of employees. But one of the things that keeps me up at night, every once in a while people ask me this, is the statistic that I know that 60% of our employees right now at the college are eligible for retirement within the next 5 years. 60%. So that is not only a significant departure of experience, it can in a lot of ways be a brain drain, right? So we have to be very thoughtful as an organization that if we do explore this, what's the process? We have a gradual reduction. We don't want to have mass exodus all at one time. I want people to enjoy their retirement, but we also have to be, again, responsible as an employer as well. Great question, Betsy. I'll let you know, though, if we decide to do it.
Here we go.
There had been a lot of talk about you hosting a leadership institute. Is there any more information you can provide about it?
Oh, great question. Yes, our CPOD area, and those of you, I've worked in a couple of organizations, and our CPOD area is probably one of the best in the country that I've ever seen. I actually ran a center and know the work that goes into that. So the way in which they purposefully design programs and to scaffold these leadership programs is critical. But this is a great tangent to this question that's going here. If we know that 60% of our employees are going to be retiring for the next 5 years, how are we looking at succession planning as an organization? How are we building the next layer of leaders within the organization throughout the entire organization, right? You don't have to have president or vice president in front of your name. The reality is that all of us are leaders within the spaces that we're in. So one of the things that I have asked them to do, we have three leadership development programs that currently exist right now at CPOD. I've asked them to craft, and I've worked with them. I sat down with Krista and a team of, and we've been working very deliberately. I think we're actually going to call it the President's Leadership Seminar to actually make this. I want it to be almost a much more intensive, critical experience where you're looking at case study methodology, using case studies, looking at real life college issues, and thinking very deliberately about how you also are developing your portfolio of skills, how you would talk about those skills, how you would then plot a career path within the institution or without. You know, one of the things I have to remind people is that sometimes you can grow within your organization. Oftentimes you will not be able to do that. And I had someone the other day tell me they wanted to be president. I said, well, that's lovely. There's only one president, and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So we want to help you be a president, but you may not be a president here, right? So we want to help you be able to do that. And that, to me, is a sign of a good employer as well. So we are in the process of doing that. It's going to be an application process. People have to put together a portfolio to be a part of it. It will require part of my time and their time, and we're going to do that hopefully starting in the fall.
All right, we have another question in the room.
You mentioned as you came in, you ran into a young couple perhaps beginning a continuing ed journey looking for language classes. We also, through workforce development, continuing education, have programs like the Clinical Trials Project Management, where people are continuing their education but at a very different level. Yesterday at the fabulous Innovation Works discussion, one of the PowerPoint slides that went up, and the question posed was, why do people go to college? And the answers posed were, is it to get a job or the intellectual development and that sort of thing? How do we change the word and or to and?
Well, part of what we have to do, and in my opinion, and the best example of this is how we think about our organization. I was struck, and I think probably in this room, my first couple of months here, I spent time, actually this room, a room down the hall, talking with various segments of the college, and I happened to be here at the Wheaton facility. And one of the first things I heard is how so many of people within this college have this clear delineation between credit and non-credit, between workforce and transfer. These are arbitrary, really limiting thoughts about how organizations operate. And the irony about it is self-imposed. I mean, it's something that the state requires us in terms of how we do reporting, but for all intents and purposes, it should be fluid between the two. So we just produced this wonderful document, if you haven't seen it, about workforce development and what Montgomery College does in that space. I heard through the rumor grapevine that there were some people who were offended that their program was considered workforce. Really? 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 Now, what does that say about us as an organization? And what does that say about what our intentionality is about the work that we do here? So here's a part that I think, how do we start to eliminate the or? Is that as an organization, we eliminate the or. It's an and, it's a spectrum. And we simply meet students where they are. Most of our students don't know the difference between credit and non-credit. Most of our students don't know the difference between new entry and continuing education. Most of our students, they come to us and say, I have a need. How can the college meet me where I am and get me to where I want to go? So it's a cultural thing that we self-impose on ourselves. And I think if we start to stop using that terminology, it'll start to have that ripple effect in our community, or at least I hope that it would. Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to go with an online question. This one from a student, Juan Sebastian Barron. Is it fair to charge $104 for a rental textbook?
Well, Juan, I appreciate that question. I would probably need a lot more information to respond to that. I don't know what the textbook is. I don't know what the cost of the textbook is. But what I can tell you that's a combination of factors that are set between the publisher and the bookstore. In fact, I think, Juan, you sent this question ahead of time. So when people send questions ahead of time, I have the advantage of having an answer that I don't just say myself if it's something very specific. And Juan asked this question. I thought it was an interesting one that our bookstore folks offered a response to, and I'm going to share it because they had. They started off by saying the same thing. It's hard to say if it's fair or not without more specifics. I said that part too. But what can be said is that the rental price is always the lowest upfront cost to the customer for using a textbook for a semester. Discounts will range from 12 to 46% of the comparable purchase price. So the idea of how textbooks are priced is a very complex one. It's a combination of relationship between the publisher, the other idea also if we're going to continue to use that textbook. But I can tell you that our bookstore has been on the forefront of working with the state guidelines as it relates to instructional materials, affordability, and accessibility guidelines that are put forth by the state of Maryland. So they do a very good job of that. Are there opportunities for continued improvement? No doubt. But the marketplace is a complex one, Juan, and we're trying to figure it out too.
We have a natural follow-up to that.
Oh, wow. I like these naturals.
There are rumors about changing bookstore operations. Will the college community have input on changes?
Yeah, definitely. So let's do some rumor abatement. We have to look at our bookstore operations, plain and simple. We know that there is greater competition for instructional materials. We know for a fact that bookstores and other services are designed to be self-sustaining, supporting the operation of the institution, and in fact give revenue to the institution to help support the parts of the college that do not generate revenue or do not generate as much revenue as the expenses are. So in this particular case, what I think is very interesting, we have a group of employees who are part of a task force that are going to be looking at different models. A group have been working on it for about a year. Another group is coming together now to look at this, to look at how we might organize this work, what are the implications, how do we communicate about it, and then to bring forth some recommendations. Dr. Warmack, I saw you walk into the room. Anything else you would have me say about that? I know you gave me notes. I should probably look at the notes. Huh? Oh, you need the mic. You got to have the mic.
Dr. Pollard,
yeah.
And to the college community. There was a survey done, I think, in January, early part of the year. So we'll be bringing that feedback to the college community about what we saw in the survey. So we're looking at the information now. We're going to begin to meet with the governance councils and share some of that information and also talk about what's in that survey. So that'll help us also with how we want to redesign what the college community says about our auxiliary services operations.
Thank you.
We have another question from the audience.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's me again. A few years ago, there was talk about, the Wheaton Triangle. Yeah, stand up. Oh, fancy. And there was talk about, in the county of changing the Wheaton Triangle area and building a big county facility and possibly Montgomery College moving into that facility. Has any of this, do you know about any of this? Are you going to build us a new building for us here because we're running out of space?
Yeah, you all need a new building.
In Potomac.
You need a new building here. You need, and part of what I believe has probably gone into this process has been a wait to see what the county is going to be doing about this process. But I don't have any information on that in front of me. But Nancy, I'll get some and send it back, because the last I heard there was what did they call that for the county? The what? Oh yeah, I don't know the era, but the master plan. There was a master planning process that was going through for the county. Yeah, it's been very quiet. Then it kind of stopped and it started back up again. So I need to find out where we are with that. And I haven't had any conversations about it. If anybody else has, let me know. No? Okay.
Well, we don't have any questions in the room right now, but there are a couple of hot topics that have been floating around, and so I thought I'd float one for you to comment on.
Sure. Maybe I should sit down for this one.
And this one has to do with President Obama's proposal about making two-year college so affordable. Okay. What is the college doing to help make college affordable even before President Obama's proposal gets passed?
I thought you were going to ask me about the Keystone Pipeline there for a minute, which I'm sure I have an opinion about that as well. But here's what I think is interesting about this. I jokingly said to some of our communications team, they had done a phenomenal job when the president made this announcement right prior to the State of the Union and then directly afterwards to get us in front of a lot of media outlets for me to have conversations about and tell some of our students' stories. Excellent job in that regard. What was interesting to me about that, though, is that I told them, I said, I think the president got his idea from us. Now, he may say he got it from Tennessee, and Tennessee influenced that, but a lot of that I would offer came from Montgomery College, because we'd already started that work. We and the Montgomery College Foundation last year, 2 years ago, as a part of the development of the new campaign, MC 2020, had gone through a process of identifying a series of initiatives we thought would be critical for our community and critical for the student population that we serve. With that had been the Montgomery College Promise. This idea that if you are a Montgomery County High School graduate and you meet certain criteria, in particular that you have financial need, the college would have a scholarship available to you should you choose to come here, and after you've also exhausted federal financial aid in that regard. So we've been fundraising for that purpose. In fact, I would offer to you that ACES is one program that really is the start of that. This idea that we have a targeted population of students that we are coaching and mentoring in the high schools, transitioning and coaching and mentoring here, and then transitioning and coaching and mentoring when they go to their four-year institution, hopefully USG. The idea was that we would have that pipeline and a pathway of success. I think that's the same thing we're going to see here in a much broader plan. We have been having discussions with some corporate partners. We've been having conversations with local government, because I think it could be a very powerful public-private partnership to do this, to raise the money. Other municipalities that have done this have been able to raise money through some large tax influx or tax benefit that they have, or lottery money. That's how Tennessee has done it. So some different strategies around it. We are currently looking at how we can do this. We don't know there to be a municipality quite like us who has done this, and I think we could again be yet another gold star in Montgomery College and Montgomery County and how we can do this. The last thing is that we're also conducting research. What are some of the best practices? What is the best structure for this? How do you make it sustainable? We don't want to be a one-hit wonder. We want something that's going to be critically relevant to the community, and something that, you know, my second grader can know that this is about and be able to look forward to, and his peers when they graduate from high school. Anything else I should say about that, Dave?
We're looking into the efficacy of promise. Sorry. Talking in the mic. So one of the things that we're doing is we're looking into the efficacy of Promise Scholarship programs. There's Promise Scholarships in Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Kalamazoo, and what we wanted to find out is, do these scholarships, once the students receive them, actually make student completion increase? So we just finished a report from the Education Advisory Board, and they looked at Tennessee, Kalamazoo, and Pittsburgh, and we'll be able to share that report with you to show, actually at community colleges, those scholarship promises are actually more effective at community colleges than at the four-year schools. So that's one piece that we're actually doing too.
Michael, before you ask me another question, I don't need this, sorry. I was supposed to at the top of this do some announcements and some other things, and thank goodness, Marcus, thank you for finding them for me. Just a few things I want to speak to so that I can put them out there. One is that the college's operating budget has been submitted to the county executive and the county council for fiscal year 2016. We have asked for an increase in our budget from the county. Right now we have formally presented a request of $253.7 million is the budget that we have requested. This is about a 4% increase in that. I want you to know, though, that's really important about that. The majority of the money that we've asked for, going to a question that we started at the top of this, has been compensation for employees. We know that our employees have done a phenomenal job and have been a partner with the college and the county. We're asking the county to help us fulfill the obligations that we've made through our collective bargaining and other employee relationships. We're hopeful that by the end of the semester, we'll have a good idea about where we're going. First, the county executive will make his recommendation to the council. The council will deliberate, and typically, I don't know, right around graduation, we always seem to get our feedback from the county council in that regard. A couple other things I'll mention. Our general studies degree is getting a boost. Very excited to see the work that's being done by faculty in that regard, to really look at how we think about what is the essential components of how we design curriculum here at the organization, but also how we want students to be able to put together a cohesive schedule and a cohesive curriculum to help them move to their next level. Very excited about that. We have also submitted an online degree in general studies that will be going to the Maryland Higher Education Commission right after, probably in the next week or so. It goes to the board at its March meeting, and hopefully they will approve it and it'll go forward to MHEC. I mentioned the workforce development report earlier. I'm sure somebody's going to ask me about closing the achievement gap, so I'll come back to that later. We continue to see our innovation fund go to work, so you should see applications come out for that very quickly. They're due by Monday, March 23rd. We have $40,000 available for innovation funds. I hope to see lots of great applications, and we're going to actually have our innovation network Innovation Works be engaged in helping us vet those around some ideas, so feel free to commence with that. And I think that's all I'll mention. I mentioned the employee engagement survey, so those are just a few announcements I was supposed to do at the top that I forgot to do. Michael.
All right, well, you mentioned ACES just a couple of minutes ago, and that's one of the another hot topic that's floating around our campuses. We have many partnerships with MCPS, including ACES. How are these programs and partnerships going to be affected by the Josh Starr resignation?
Great question. You know, we have, what I love about this county, regardless of who's in the leadership seat, the relationships between the organizations go on. They certainly have the flavor of the leaders, but the relationships are far more than the leaders. I will miss my friend Josh. He has been a wonderful partner over the last several years, and wish him well in what he's going to be doing next. But I also know that MCPS and MC's partnership is bigger than Josh Starr and DeRionne Pollard. So as a result of that, I think we're going to continue to see outstanding work. I know we have a number of new initiatives that are happening. The kindergarten to college, if you haven't seen that, I think it is one of the most fun things. I got to go read to some kindergartners, and then I think I saw a video where our basketball team went to play with kindergartners, and they just thought that was the best thing ever. We have faculty who are going into the classroom and doing science experiments and all types of things. So that's a really exceptional way of thinking about how we can turn Montgomery County into a college town, even with the babies all the way to our seniors. The other thing we're doing, we're having faculty-to-faculty dialogue about some real critical issues. Math, we know this. We know that this continues to be an area of interest for us, not only in the state. This is a national issue. The numbers of students who are placed into developmental education directly out of high school is a challenge. So we've got to figure out how we align our curriculum in some very thoughtful ways. The PARC and the Common Core that's coming forth, how are we looking at ways in which we as an organization align with that, and our two organizations do that. So as much as we'd like to think that all the great ideas from the organizations come from the leaders, I can guarantee you that that is not the case, and we're going to continue to do some wonderful things. Great question, though.
All right, we have an online question. This is from a Mr. or Ms. Concerned Employee. So must be a new hire. Anyway, my understanding is that the college is waiting for a definitive policy on e-cigarettes from the county before the college puts its own official policy in place. In the meantime, are individual units within the college, such as the learning centers, classrooms, workspaces, libraries, allowed to make their own rules about e-cigarettes? It seems to me that many rules apply and are allowed to be determined by the individuals placed in charge of specific learning environments on campus. So, doesn't it make sense that policies about e-cigs, that's their word, not mine, are part of the regular policy-making responsibilities entrusted to the various units throughout the college? And shouldn't the heads/directors of these units be allowed to set their own rules about e-cigarettes within their facilities?
Oh, you know, so the rhetoric major in me just loved that question, right? If I ever heard a setup, so if you agree to this, then you agree with this, right? So let me be very clear about a couple of things. There is only one entity that sets policy at Montgomery College. That is the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees sets policy for the college. There's only one person who sets procedures to promulgate the policy the board set. That's me. And I have the ability to delegate that to people if I see need to do that. In this case, I do not see that. So to be very clear, unabashedly clear, the answer to your question is no. Individual departments, individual learning centers, individual areas should not be setting their own policy, procedure, guidelines, whatever it comes as it regards to this particular issue. Because this goes back to the other day I said this, we are one college, right? So what I do not want, because you know what happens? You know, Sanjay Rai let somebody have an e-cig in his office, and they walk down the hallway to Janet Warmack's office, and they want to have it, and Janet says, no, you're not going to smoke in my office, an e-cig or whatever it is. You're not going to do that. Then guess what they do? They call my office, and they say, you know what happens? You got one office that says this and one area that says this. What are you doing? This is a problem as an institution. So no. What was the question? Does it make sense that? No, it does not make sense that. One area is not going to create their own policy, their own procedures to help guide this. What you need to do is that there are typically, in this case, a couple people who should be responsible for having those conversations. In my mind, it is the senior vice presidents of those areas who should be working with the managers in those areas to have a uniform policy. But at this point, the college does not allow smoking materials on campus. I don't know how much more direct I can be about that. So no, no. And to the county, and then hopefully the county will be making a decision here fairly soon, and we can go from there.
All right, we have a question from Jackie Maffey.
Hey, Miss Jackie.
University of Maryland has a University Day. Maybe we could too. One day each spring or fall with an open house across all campuses. A glorious way to showcase MC.
What a great idea, Jackie. I think that sounds like a committee or task force that you'd like to lead. And I'm sure our advancement team would like that. You know, one of the things that I told them and they're actually working on a proposal for this. I said, I really want to figure out how one day, in some variation of this, is how do we turn Montgomery County purple once or twice a semester? Because you know, I don't know if y'all have this experience, but every time I go someplace, you know, God bless me, I'm at the restaurant, you know, ordering, oh, hey, you look familiar. Like, oh yeah, I am. How you doing? Yep, I work at Montgomery College. You know, stop at the pharmacist, I'm hacking up along. Oh, you're the president of Montgomery College. You know, I go to Montgomery College. Can you give me some information about the college? I'm going through the drive-thru one day, and this lady tells me her whole life story about how she wants to go to college. And I sat there and told her what she used to do about all the people honking their horns behind us. But that's what you do, right? So everywhere we go, there's somebody who attended, graduated, and I always say, you need to be in my alumni association. You need to be in my alumni association. So I think it's a great idea. Jackie Maffey, I'm going to ask David Sears to have a conversation with you. And those people, because I think is a part of turning the college purple one day. I think that the community purple one day. We can also turn the college inside out. That might be a great community engagement initiative.
We're looking at that for our 70th anniversary is coming up next year, and we'll work with the college community on a day like that that's cost effective.
See, we all have to talk about cost.
it's not really a follow-up, but
Okay.
when you see who asked the question, it's sort of a follow-up.
Okay.
This is from Judy Ackerman.
I gotcha.
Earlier you mentioned the FY 2016 budget submission. How can students and employees help with this effort?
Well, you all will be hearing about this very soon. Ray Gilmer, Susan Madden, and a whole bunch of other people came together to develop a campaign around our budget this year. And one of the things that's really, really important about that, and I'm seeing Nancy back here as well, the idea for us is that we have a powerful story to tell. We don't have to make up something, but how we have to concentrate it in a way that's very real for the people who are decision makers about how we function as an organization. So you'll be hearing more about this, Judy. Thank you for the question. We're going to start using both social media, print media, and some other ways of doing that. Student testimonials are always phenomenal. Each week, Nancy and advancement communications people, they send out for me 3 points that I send out every week to major legislators and decision makers, influencers in the county. And we always try to have these mission moments in there. So it's a great way to be thinking about how, if you know these mission moment stories, share them with us. If you have opportunities to say, hey, and this time of year, those of you who are trying to get in to see me, you know it's impossible because I'm out everywhere. Rotary wants me to come and talk, I'm there talking to them. If you want me to come talk to some association, I do that if we can do it, because the idea is to make sure people know our story and the people who make the decisions understand that.
Okay, we have another online question. This is from Erin Marcinek. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing her last name, from counseling in Germantown.
Hi, Erin.
Students are required to complete an online student orientation, a separate academic MAP orientation, an advising questionnaire, and an optional campus orientation. With 3 separate but related requirements, 1 optional orientation, plus banner holds, why not combine these elements into 1 comprehensive orientation?
Well, maybe I could ask Nancy. Nancy, is that, who was that? What was her name again? Erin. Why we haven't done that? I think that's a very good question. I'd love to go back and talk with Dr. Dungy and some of our student services people about that. I suspect, though, there are a couple of things that would go with that. One is that there are different outcomes likely for each of those experiences. So trying to put them all together in a way that would allow a student to be able to get them done in a timely manner, excuse me, while at the same time meeting the requirements that we have to demonstrate, I think might become problematic. But I don't know that, Erin, but I'll go back. But while we're on that subject, there is something I do want to talk about, if you don't mind. I don't know if it's a question on your list anywhere, a hot topic. You know, one of the things that is important to me, and we have to be very thoughtful about this, we have obligations to many people within our community. There's our accrediting body who asks us to do different things. There is our Maryland Higher Education Association asks us to do different things. The legislature has different things. They want us to do the county council. Then, of course, I look over, see Angie Pickwick here. All the accrediting bodies for all our health sciences, they all have their requirements of things we have to do. And here's the truth, y'all. There's a compliance component that we have to demonstrate as an organization. And that's hard sometimes for us to hear. But the reality at the end of the day, and this is an important point I need you to take away from here, we don't have the luxury of choosing. We want to opt in and opt out of things, right? We have the opportunity to decide how we want to respond sometimes, and most often we don't. But reality is that we have to demonstrate that we're meeting the obligations of the law that has been required of us and the practices that are going to help our students be successful. So I know there's lots of conversations about right now the CCR, CCA, and how we're implementing this and what the realities are about that. To be very clear, I said to both Dr. Rye and Dr. Dungy, here's the point. I need to be able to demonstrate that we are compliant with that law. That's what I need to be able to figure out. So when Nancy or Susan or somebody calls me up and say, our legislature and MHEC has called and said, we want to be able to demonstrate that you have done this, this, and this based on what the law has said, I'm going to call them and I'm going to say, give me a report that says how we have done this and be able to demonstrate that effectively. So we have to, as an organization, wrap our head around that. Sometimes people impose things on us. Unfortunately, when you are dependent on taxpayer dollars, they get to do that from time to time. At the same time, as an organization, we can take a posture of waiting forever to act on something, or we can simply say, you know what, we got to suck it up and move into it and figure out what it's going to look like for us as an organization. And if we're requiring certain standards of students, we also have to require the same standards of us who are going to be teaching those students, who are going to be guiding those students. We have to do that in ways that are highly effective. So I really, this is a compliance issue for me. It's not one of saying, oh, there's a cultural component to this. But at the end of the day, I always tell people when the police come knocking on the door, or we get a summons from somebody, or we get this stuff, they don't ask everybody at the college what their opinion is and what they thought. They ask me. I'm the one who typically has to go do the conversation. And then if they ask for interpreting the law, there's only a couple people I'm going to ask to interpret the law. General counsel can interpret the law. The office of the senior vice presidents, that's actually in their job description to interpret the law and look at practice. And then I'm also going to ask people to be very thoughtful about developing a plan to get in place on that. So a few of you all know what I'm talking about in this. Let's get with the program, okay?
All right, switching gears to another hot topic. When will the Rockville Campus Science Center renovation be complete, and when will the Rockville Campus parking garage construction get underway?
So if I'm correct, the Science West will be done in the fall of 2016, and that is our intent around that, and hopefully they're moving directly around that. That's exciting. Parking garage, I believe they start in a couple weeks of staging. May, they start staging in May, they'll start construction, and we are very excited about that. I did suggest to a few people that we might want to take a sabbatical because the Rockville campus is going to be an interesting place. I'm not going to take any calls about parking. I'm not going to take any calls about wayfinding around that campus because our team is doing a great job to try and handle that. But I will offer to you that we are going to have net new about 500 parking spaces on that campus. We will still be at a parking deficit. We will still have a parking deficit, but we'll have more. And the other thing I'll share with you is that it's going to be a journey to get there. So we're going to have a lot of institutional patience and a lot of institutional kindness as we go through this process.
Well, speaking of new buildings, how is the Holy Cross Germantown Hospital partnership working out, and what opportunities are there for students from this partnership?
You know, what I love about this is that this is a partnership that keeps giving and it keeps going. So we just signed recently, a couple months ago, a new MOU with Holy Cross Hospital where they will be continuing to expand their commitment to our students, both in terms of the work that they're doing to create more spaces for our students in health sciences to come and do their study there. They have already done job fairs on our campuses, and we'll be doing more with that. They also have made a gift to us of up to $500,000 over the next 5 years to help expand health sciences and related areas. So this is a partnership that continues to give and grow. The other part about that that I would offer excuse me, is that they also have been helpful as we look at our Hercules Pinckney Park at the Germantown campus and helping to attract other businesses. I think one of the things that's interesting is we talk to other businesses who are exploring this opportunity. At the end of the day, the idea that we have an anchor tenant that is Holy Cross Hospital that is doing such exceptional work in the community, I think is a boon for us.
You okay on water?
Yep, I got some here and I got some there.
Okay.
Yeah, you're taking care of me. Thank you.
All right, we have another hot topic. We're just full of hot topics today. We've had a full semester and part of another under the new academic restructuring program. How is that being evaluated? What are the results? And were more administrative positions added?
All right, so more rumor abatement. No. There were no more administrative positions added when we did the academic restructuring. We had actually the opportunity to reassign some administrative positions into other areas, but we did not add the number of administrators. There's a lovely little group who loves to try to add them up. great, add them up. I'll let you know the ones. I think since I've been here in 5 years, I think I may have added 5 or 6 new administrators to the college. If I'm incorrect, somebody will correct me, but I'm pretty sure 5 or 6 in the last 5 years that I've added to the college community. So in the academic restructuring, we did not. That being said, I'm very excited about what I'm seeing is occurring in the act. And one of the things I'm also saying is we had to start thinking of changing our lexicon. Margaret and I were talking about this, or maybe it was John Hammond. The reality at the end of the day is that we will constantly be reinventing and redesigning ourselves. So that one moment of the restructure is over. There's going to be continued changes that are going to occur as an organization. We have to adapt. We're going to have to amend ourselves. We're going to have to do things to make it relevant to what's happening at the time. So the idea of restructuring, redesigning, that's just a part of what we're going to be. It's a part of it's just what we're going to do from this point forward. The other part about that, though, is that we're seeing some really exciting things that come out of that. Some of the discipline dialogues that are occurring, the focus on the student experience, the focus on what's happening in the classroom, a new curriculum, articulation agreements, connections with business and industry, looking at the academic schedule in very different and real ways. That is something that comes, and we could not have had those conversations before if we had not had that moment of the restructuring process. So it is, I think, a boon for us, and I think the work that we're going to be doing from this point forward will continue to build on what we've done thus far.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more, maybe two, it just depends.
Hallelujah.
I'll tell you, time flies.
Whew.
How is the TACCCT grant being implemented? How are we preparing students to fill jobs in general?
Well, you know, the TAC grant, as I like to call it, because I can't remember all those letters at one time. The TAC grant, very exciting. We have hired the director to come in who's going to be helping us to get this grant launched. The board on Monday just took action to have our employer engagement services crafted with our partner in that regard, the Tech Council of Maryland. So we're very excited about where we are with this. Those of you who don't know, I don't know where you've been, but a $15 million grant that we are hosting for the state of Maryland for 14 community colleges. I wrote for that and very proud of the work to actually create a pathway to cybersecurity jobs in our community. State of Maryland, 20,000 vacancies in cybersecurity. What's unique about our grant that I love, we're creating pathways for traditionally underrepresented populations to step into cybersecurity. And the other thing is they're doing it in a lattice approach, which I think is interesting. You get this skill set, you go into industry, you come out, you get this skill set, and it allows this person to build a career that's self-sustaining over time. And it's a network across the state of Maryland, 14 community colleges. This is the type of work that I want to see replicated across the institution. We already have pockets of that in some areas, but the idea of the intentionality of looking at what the workforce needs are, what the economic development plans are for the county and the state, and then mirroring our actions with that is exciting.
Okay, we have about a minute and a half left or so. Are there any other final thoughts that you would like to share with us?
Let's see, what should I tell you all? Well, I want to tell you thank you for what you do. I know that oftentimes we are in the midst of so much craziness, but we have these moments that are sheer joy. So last week, I had the opportunity to travel with a group of students to Tampa to go to the Black, Brown, and College Bound Conference. A group of 7 young men went to look at and study the disproportionate lack of representation of Black and brown men in higher education. And I will tell you, it was soul food, because they were talking about issues about their own existence and experience. They were having very thoughtful dialogue about how the institution supports them and what we can do differently. But most of all, they were proud to walk around that conference and say, I'm from Montgomery College. And that means that we're doing so much work that's wonderful here, and you all are a reflection of that. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here today. And Michael, I'm shutting up, and it's you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Pollard, and we want to thank everybody for participating in today's town hall. I also want to urge you to keep an eye on the President's Corner Monday message and also Inside MC Online for information about upcoming town halls and also about Dr. Pollard's State of the College address. It's scheduled for April 2nd. So once again, for Dr. Pollard and everyone on the MCTV production crew, thank you so much for participating in today's town hall.